Okay, we are rolling. Massive exciting news in the boxing world. That's right, Canelo Alvarez will take on Gennady Golovkin September the 16th, I believe. Well, I think globally this is the biggest fight since Manny Pacquiao Floyd Mayweather. However, the styles of the two guys make for a greater fight, I think. Because they both come to fight. Both of them. They come to fight strategically, but nonetheless, they are two warriors. First of all, I owe Canelo Alvarez a massive apology. I was one of them that had the belief that he was, avoiding Golovkin. Now, when Riddick Bowe threw his belt in the bin all them years back and didn't fight Lennox Lewis, we never saw the Riddick Bowe fight and Lennox Lewis. So that was a pure duck, in my opinion. But Canelo temporarily gave the belt away. And now I'm of the belief that behind the scenes, they were just ironing out, the creases in the contracts, and that takes time. So all along now I'm of the belief that Canelo wasn't avoiding Triple G at all. This is the same young man who has returned that had, the bravery and the fortitude when the odds were stacked against him. And he had all this inexperience, and he still went in there and fought Floyd Mayweather. He went on to fight Alexandre Lara and Austin Trout. Three styles that are terrible for Canelo, and always kind of have been. The kind of fights that you'd rather avoid, but he took them fights, and credit to him. Now he's taking a style which I believe is going to be a real Achilles heel for him. And I'm going to tell you why later on in the video. First of all, thank goodness that announcement came when it did. I'll tell you for why. I did pick Canelo to beat Chavez Jr. And I picked Canelo to stop Chavez Jr. late. And rather emphatically. But I did think Chavez would offer more volume and more intensity in the fight than he actually did. I was very perplexed that he didn't let his hands go. Maybe it was more what Canelo was doing that kind of made him gun shy. Maybe the weight. Maybe the fact that because his father is a legend, Chavez Sr., we expect legendary performances from his son. But in life we have to realise something. Siblings and, offsprings of people don't always equal the same genius that the initial genius had themselves. For instance, Lisa Marie Presley will never be Elvis Presley in terms of talent. Paris Jackson will never be Michael Jackson in terms of genius. Many people in Albert Einstein's family will never have the gift of science that he had. And that's right. Young Chavez will never be Father Chavez. We just have to live with that. The name has carried this boy. He's a good fighter, but he's not A-level. And I knew this going into the fight. I can't understand where the expectation for him to turn up after going in at a catch weight, being inactive for a long time, not having really a great performance in years. And even at his best, as I say, he's a B-plus fighter. Let's put it this way. Chavez the father, Canelo has more in common with him in terms of greatness than his son does. That's just a fact. And Canelo, his family worked, I think, in selling ice creams. So being a great boxer is not genetic. Being a great dancer and singer-songwriter is not genetic. These things are unique to the person, right? So, I'm a bit worried about Chavez. People expect too much of him because his father was so great. I think he could and should have done better last night. But he'll never be his father. You just got to live with that. His father is one of the greatest fighters, not just Mexican, but in history. This guy went 89-0. Floyd Mayweather thought he was good. Check that out, right? The one thing I didn't like about Chavez, though, and I have to be honest, after the fight, he didn't... The excuses, he blamed his trainer. Can you not figure out that after 4 or 5 rounds, plan A is not working? And what were they actually trying to do in there? Chavez was always at a distance. He didn't use his range. He does have longer arms than Canelo, but that was never used. The hand speed between the two was evident. Canelo was throwing punches in bunches. His foot speed was greater than Chavez. But Canelo did at times go to the ropes and offer opportunities. Same that he did with Liam Smith. Now, Liam Smith, to me, put more effort in his attempt than Chavez did, and gets more credit as far as I'm concerned. Alright, Liam Smith got countered, and was eventually stopped to the body, but he did have a go when Canelo offered the chances when he took breaks against the ropes. Chavez never let his hands go at all. The boxing approach, if you can call it that, was not working. So he never became typical Chavez. Go to the body, throw volume, try and slow the guy down and try and take him out, make it a Mexican war. That was the only chance that Chavez had in this fight. The hope that his size would play a key factor, that Canelo would tire, and that Chavez would land shots to the body and throw volume like never before. This is what he had to do. He didn't quit on his stool, but I think psychologically he gave up in the ring. Bernard Hopkins said it, and I'm very sad to say that Bernard was right. Once a quitter, seemingly always a quitter. He went the distance. He is a good fighter, but not elite. Moving on, the announcement. It's fantastic. This will bring in casuals and boxing fans alike. Canelo restored my faith yesterday by accepting the Triple G fight. Because this is the brave man, as I said, that stepped up and fought Floyd Mayweather years back. He's returned. He's there again. But that said, let's talk about the matchup. Triple G wins this. You see, Canelo was one of my favourite fighters before I believed he was ducking Triple G. Now he's one of my favourites again. As I said, my faith is restored. But I have to think here with my mind and not my heart. Right? Now trust me, Canelo will not pose Triple G the same problems Danny Jacobs posed Triple G. For starters, Jacobs is bigger, right? He's bigger than Triple G. He was more or less a light heavyweight going into that contest. He's stronger than Canelo. That comes with practice fighting at middleweight. I think he's quicker. He hits hard and KOs true middleweights. Now, Chavez has a great chin, that is one of his qualities, but Canelo was landing all night long and never looked like stopping Chavez, and Chavez was a walking punch bag in there. So, Golovkin has got a chin, but Golovkin will be answering Canelo back. This is the difference. Canelo could do what he wanted and yet still could not drop Chavez. Right? So, he also has a bigger reach, Jacobs, than Canelo has. I think he has faster feet. When he throws shots as well, he doesn't have to plant his feet like Canelo does. Because again, Chavez was a stationary target. Canelo could plant his feet, fire away, and either stay in range or back off and go to the ropes. Jacobs can switch stances with ease from orthodox to southpaw. I don't see that same sort of problem being posed to Triple G by Canelo. He has equal hand speed to Canelo as well. He's not a combination puncher the same, but he's faster, and I think he's more accurate than Canelo at middleweight. Canelo, I'm sorry to say, has very little attributes that are like Danny Jacobs that could cause Triple G the same kind of problems. So you cannot read into the Jacob fights at all in terms of what happens when Triple G faces Canelo. Canelo, style-wise, is much more made for Triple G than Danny Jacobs was, or ever will be. In my view, and this is only my view, this is an easier fight for Triple G than a Jacobs rematch. It's just the intangibles are so obvious in this fight to me. Canelo even goes to the ropes and invites fighters in. Well, that spells doom v Triple G. Triple G wins this style. He does, because styles make fights at the end of the day. That resting on the ropes v Smith and Chavez will be Canelo's downfall come September. I could be very wrong. This is boxing at the end of the day. Canelo does have talent and he could pull it off. Anything's possible. But I personally see Triple G as the clear winner here. I see Triple G going back to the performance he gave against David Lemieux. Now, I know he's not the same David Lemieux as Canelo. But again, when Canelo is on the ropes, he lets people throw so he can counter them. But Triple G has a nice long jab, and a painful one at that. You know, a kind of Lennox Lewis, George Foreman piston jab that hurts. It's more or less like a power punch. So when Canelo's against the ropes, Triple G won't commit, I don't think. He'll just pepper him with a jab at range. So Canelo won't be able to counter him. Then when Canelo comes to the centre of the ring to fight, Golovkin can more than hold his own. Canelo thinks he's a great body puncher. Golovkin's a great body puncher, and an accurate one. Also, as I say, Canelo has been punching he punched a guy over 160 pounds. I'm not sure whether Canelo's power is going to travel up. I don't think he'll hurt Golovkin when he lands clean as much as Jacobs did. Because Golovkin has a granite chin. That said, maybe does Canelo, but let's face it. What big punch has Canelo had to take recently in any of his recent fights? That's right, none. And who has hit him with the power of Gennady Golovkin recently? That's right, none. Right? Who's hit Golovkin recently that has comparable power, or maybe more power, than Canelo Alvarez? Danny Jacobs. David Lemieux. That's right. Yes. So, it's crystal clear to me. It really is. But it was fantastic, wasn't it, when Canelo said, my next opponent, and then like show business won it. Golovkin just come out of nowhere and was on the stage. It saved the event because Chavez did not turn up for the event, unfortunately. So it was phenomenal. I think they'd learnt something from Eddie Hearn. Remember, it was disappointing because when Anthony Joshua beat Eric Molina at the O2 Arena in London, Molina had given Deontay Wilder a good fight. But Anthony Joshua took him out in 2 rounds and it was disappointing. And Eddie Hearn saved the day, didn't he, when he brought Klitschko to the ring. Everybody forgot about the non-competitive fight we just witnessed, and we were all focusing on Vlad v Anthony Joshua. We're doing the same today, I believe. Triple G and Canelo. I bet Chavez is glad as well Canelo got in the ring, because it's distracted his performance, hasn't it? It's took away, the edge that the media would have been saying the next day in Mexico. All they're going to be saying now is the fight is on. And Chavez will not get the slack abuse. Well, they'll cut him some slack now anyway, because that fight takes the sting out of the bad performance, basically. History will still show in the end that Chavez was below par that night, and that's being kind. But the fight is truly on, isn't it? My prediction is clear, as I've said. Credit to Oscar De La Hoya as well. Oscar's been in the game a long, long time, but he shows he can learn new tricks. It's been a great year so far for boxing. We are seeing a lot more of the best feed the best. And Anthony Joshua, Triple G, Canelo Alvarez, Klitschko, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Kell Brook, Errol Spence. I could go on and on. This generation's worth of fighters are starting to deserve a lot of credit for what they are doing for the sport of boxing. As I say, now I believe Canelo wanted the fight all along. I think his Mexican warrior instinct kicked in. And like when Oscar said, I don't fancy the task against Erislandy Lara, to be honest, Canelo said, no, get me that fight. And Oscar said, you're the boss, kid. Okay, we'll go ahead. I think this time Canelo said to Oscar, I've had it. I can't listen to this sort of stuff anymore. Get me the contract. Let's get it signed and sealed and delivered. That's what a true Mexican warrior does. And Canelo is that, in my opinion. He's back. And I believe come September 17th, Canelo will look at himself in the mirror and say, so far in my boxing career, I've achieved a lot. And I've only lost to the great Floyd Mayweather and the great Triple G. For those saying that the fight was fixed, I don't know about that. I think they had so much faith that Canelo was going to beat Chavez. They know, the matchmakers know these things, right? The casuals who bought into this Mexican war fest, that's all right if you're dealing with Barrera and Eric Morales, but you're not. You've only got one great Mexican in that ring, and that was Canelo. Canelo was more Chavez-esque than Chavez was. Let's face it. And Golden Boy know this. Golovkin knows this. Canelo knows this. He didn't sit down, did he? In between rounds at all. That's very unusual. So, everybody bought into this phenomenal Mexican battle. But I knew it wasn't really going to happen. I thought Chavez would do better than he did, but still, I don't think so. Canelo's just got way too much for a guy like that. But Chavez is no Triple G. All the things that Canelo was doing in that ring, he'll have to think twice or three times over when he faces Triple G. Triple G will make him throw less volume. He will. That jab will keep Canelo off balance. It will hurt. He won't be able to use Triple G as a punch bag. In fact, if he tries to use Triple G as a punch bag, that's more advantage Triple G in my opinion. So, that's how I see it. I'm delighted that the fight has been announced. But make no mistake about it, I could be very wrong. Canelo is a very gifted guy. Who knows, he could overcome the odds. But as far as I'm concerned, the only person who will be the victor that night will be the man from Kazakhstan, Gennady Golovkin. I'm expecting to put on his best performance for at least a year and a half. And that will be enough, in my view, to seal the deal when you have one great Mexican fighting another human being that fights equally like he's a great Mexican too. They're both from different nations, but in the art of war, they are brothers. This is Champions of Champions Boxing Talk. I'm out.